Microsoft readies Kilby. Accenture picks up some security firms. AWS goes micro. F5 takes the SurePath. China reclaims its Exascale crown. Anthropic isn't telling any fables, and we're going to try to find the cursor in this week's episode of The Rundown. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tech Field Day Rundown. It is June 24th, and we are very excited to be back in our respective time zones on this International Ferry Day. So if you know someone who has wings or leaves dust wherever they go, make sure that you believe in them today, because if you don't, well, you may have to clap a few times to bring them back to life. Thankfully, you can hold the applause, because I am here to bring you all of the wonderful news with my beautiful co-host from Down Under, or slightly east of Down Under, Mr. Alastair Cooke. Al, it's good to see you again, at least remotely.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on camera again with you. It was a greater pleasure to be with you in person. But of course, today is National Take Back the Lunch Break Day. So make sure you are getting outside and not just going to your car to cry at lunch break. Enjoy some outdoors and some greenery. Definitely always good to get out and see real life.
Yeah. The real life that you want to go out there and see is probably a lot more exciting than a lot of the news that we're going to be talking about. But trust me, we're going to try to make it as fun as we can. The first story that we're going to talk about is, of course, about building things, because the race to build AI infrastructure is now driving major investments in energy. Microsoft has signed a 20-year agreement with Chevron to support Project Kilby, which is a planned AI data center campus in West Texas that could consume up to 2.7 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power roughly 2 million homes. The project will use on-site natural gas generation rather than relying entirely on the power grid, hoping to deliver reliable energy needed for large-scale AI workloads. The partnership highlights how cloud providers and energy companies are increasingly working together to meet the growing power demands of AI while creating new business opportunities in the process. Al, is harnessing the power of 2.5 DeLoreans to run AI really a good idea here?
Well, given that we can't actually use DeLoreans for time travel, possibly this is a good use of the power. Nice to see that there's a data center being built relatively close to where the energy source is, not putting additional loads on energy grids. In this case, the energy source is natural gas coming out of the Chevron's multiple facilities in the Permian Basin region. Those who've watched Landman will be familiar with that idea. And that this huge amounts of energy is going to be produced or converted from natural gas to electricity on site at this data center. I think that's a fairly cool thing. But there's a bigger picture in this, that historically Microsoft has been very strong about having environmentally friendly and doing environmentally neutral things with their data centers as much as possible. Seems like this is no longer possible with AI. The environmental impact of running these major data centers is going to be significantly higher than what we saw in the past. And Microsoft is spending a lot of money here to build large data centers. And I think this is a trend we'll continue to see, is that the greenwashing of data centers is going to be harder and harder to justify. But the efficiency of doing generation on premises on your data center campus is going to be very beneficial. Particularly, we know Texas's power grid is not the most stable power grid in the country, let alone the world. So I think this is a really good thing. It's a nice long-term contract for Chevron, so they have a guaranteed market, guaranteed place to sell large amounts of natural gas for, what was the term on this one, 20 years? That's a pretty long commitment. It's a longer commitment than you would have thought that the data center's lifespan would be. So yeah, this is a good thing. I think overall, co-located power generation with consumption is good. Moving natural gas around the country is well known and relatively recently invested technology, so it's relatively stable. And we've seen lots of these collaborations between power companies and data center companies. Microsoft, you might have noticed, were supporters of the idea of restarting the 3 Mile Island nuclear facility in order to power more data centers. Maybe that one is one to back away from when you're my age. Not quite so significant to younger people. 3 Mile Island doesn't hang quite so heavily in people's consciousness. AI-powered cyber attacks, of course, are continuing to become more advanced, and Accenture is making a major move to strengthen the security of critical infrastructure. The company has announced plans to acquire a majority stake in Dragos, along with runZero and NetRise. The deal's worth about 4.2 billion. Together, these companies will create an end-to-end platform to protect operational technology, things like your power grids, your natural gas pipelines, your factories, your data centers. And by combining threat detection, asset intelligence, and software supply chain security, Accenture aims to help organizations better defend against growing cyber risks driven by AI, connected devices, and that rising geopolitical tensions. Uh, Tom, is this going to protect the power supply to your data center?
But I hope so. Hold on, I got to go put some gas in the excavator to dig it up. Hopefully, the excavator doesn't get hacked along the way. This is a good move by Accenture because if you think about what Accenture has been working on with some of their recent acquisitions, they understand the value of securing critical underlying infrastructure. runZero and NetRise are both companies that don't focus on doing IT security necessarily. They focus on supply chains, they focus on IoT. They get underneath what we see everywhere. And I think that that was a smart move on their part because they realized something that a lot of people are finally starting to figure out. With the ability to create massive attack surfaces in a very short amount of time because AI can root out a lot of attack vectors in devices that don't typically get a lot of frequent updates. You have to be able to secure those things very quickly. I think where the Accenture play comes in with paying 4.2 billion for a stake in all of these companies is this idea that they, along with companies like ServiceNow, are betting on the fact that you're not going to want to pay once for that security. You're going to want to pay a monthly subscription fee to a company to take care of that for you because you don't want to have to think about where all these devices are and how to patch them and worry about, if they're going offline or if they're being used in attacks. You want that to just be taken care of. I mean, that's why you bought IoT in the first place, right? You just want it to just be invisible and give you data and not explode every once in a while. And I think that that is what Accenture's counting on. And they're making a play along with a lot of the other companies that they've acquired in the last 6 to 9 months to say, we are going to come in with our consulting arm and we're going to tell you that we'll just take care of all this for you. Just write the check, comes out of your OPEX budget, and we'll take care of the rest. And I think that's one of the reasons why they bought a stake in these companies instead of just outright purchasing them. Because if this IoT security, if this supply chain security aspect of their business takes off and does start buying a significant market share from the other vendors, it would be very easy for Accenture to roll in this time next year, complete the acquisition of Dragos and runZero, and just keep rolling on from there. So I think that this has got some upside if the companies are willing to buy into that subscription model. No doubt you've heard a lot about AI tools that generate software code. Lord knows I have, but you also need a safe way to run it. AWS has introduced Lambda MicroVMs, which is a new serverless service that executes AI-generated and user-supplied code inside of isolated virtual machine environments. It is built on AWS Firecracker technology, which is rather appropriate for the upcoming July 4th holiday. Service allows workloads to run for up to 8 hours, far longer than traditional Lambda functions. Lambda micro-VMs can also suspend and resume while preserving application state, making them very useful for things like AI agents, vulnerability testing, software development pipelines, and longer running applications. The launch highlights a growing focus on securing AI-driven workflows without adding infrastructure management complexity. Al, do you think that this is a good thing, or is it going to blow up in Amazon's face?
Oh, this is going to be good for Amazon. When you look at the pricing for this, and this is one of the first places I always look on a new AWS service, look at the pricing. This is going to cost you roughly an order of magnitude more than Lambda functions would cost you for the equivalent resources because you're getting a persistent object. So, yeah, that's going to be good for AWS. The question is it going to be good for customers? Are people going to use these micro VMs to run software that's been, well, in this case, the intention is it's software that's been written by AI tools that you don't necessarily trust. Um, The real question is whether it's good for customers. So this is virtual machines being deployed using the Lambda service. These virtual machines, you get more access to the virtual machine than you would to a normal Lambda function. So it's more like a VM, an EC2 instance. Primary difference here seems to be very rapid startup and very much more disposable than even an EC2 instance is. So yeah, it's lightweight virtualization. It allows you to start up a container. So you start with a Docker file, you power up a container, but you do get access to a command line inside it. As Mitch Ashley points out in the article that we link, this thing's still attached to your network. And so the ability for the code inside the micro VM to do something that is toxic to your environment is not taken away by the fact it's inside a micro VM. It does protect against whatever's adjacent in the next micro VM, but it doesn't protect against attacks that come out across the network. Or if you give your OpenClaw agent the ability to delete all of your emails, running it in the micro VM doesn't take that pain away. I like this capability of having another place where you could run your code, another mechanism for rapidly deploying code that's been maybe generated and needs testing. Particularly like this as part of a CI/CD pipeline where you're actually validating that the code does what it's supposed to do. Hopefully you use a different AI to do the validation that the code is doing what it's supposed to than you use the AI you use to write the code, because then it's more likely to actually validate the reality of the function. Seems to be good. Normal sort of release phase of this. Lambda MicroVMs are available in North American locations and a couple of overseas locations as well. You can expect it to roll out pretty fast because it's only a software change to make this available out at other regions as well. And also worth noting, this is limited to the ARM-based CPUs, the Graviton range of infrastructure that AWS runs, rather than x86. That may be to do with how the fast start of these Firecracker VMs runs as well. Seems to be a huge rush to deploy AI agents and tools, and keeping them secure is a growing challenge. F5 has acquired SurePath AI to strengthen its AI security platform and give cybersecurity teams better visibility into how AI models, applications, and MCP servers are being used across their environments. The technology can identify AI services running on a network and help enforce security policies beyond simple allow deny lists. The AI adoption is accelerating. Most organizations are already facing AI-related security issues. F5 is positioning itself to help enterprises discover, govern, monitor, and protect AI workloads before things turn into major new incidents. Tom, F5's very much looking at things from a network perspective. Is that the best place to look to find what AI things are going on?
Right now, I don't know that there is a better place to look at, because this is kind of an outgrowth of some of the things that I heard when I was at RSAC this year. I like to tell people that I talked to 5 different companies and had 6 different conversations about AI agentic identity. That's because nobody really knows how to solve this problem right now. You've got a bunch of people going in multiple branches trying to figure out if this approach is the better one. And some of them I think aren't going to pan out. Anybody who's doing kind of the browser-based approach, that works great. If you're using an online AI tool, if you're going through a browser to do it, but I know a lot of people that are not doing that anymore. So you need to be able to go out and discover the AI applications that are already running in your environment so that you know what you're dealing with. And that's one of the hard parts of any kind of security. We've seen this over the years, right? Whether it's unstructured data, whether it's emailing things that are sensitive and should not be nailed out, we've always had trouble kind of tracking that without some kind of a central clearinghouse for it to go through. I think F5's approach here is that by buying SurePath, they now have a tool that can go out and discover those things. Yes, it will not catch you if you're running an Olama instance locally on your laptop. Very few people are actually doing that. I think most people are using some sort of a server to connect these agents to other things. I mean, that's literally what MCP is designed to do. As we've seen with the spawn of all of the Claude type applications, and it's Claude in this case being Claude bot, open Claude type things, they do have to have network connectivity in order to really do anything. Shout out to Stephen Foskett for taking OpenClaw and sticking in a container and ripping out of all of its ability to do any network stuff. You know what he did? He made a really dumb agent because it needs to be able to go out and contact other things and to be able to instantiate the stuff and read your email and your calendar and all that other stuff. Well, guess what? When it's doing that, it is leaving footprints all over the network. And that's what SurePath is going to do, is it's going to notice those and say, hey, wait a minute, somebody's using this thing. And is it an authorized use of AI? Is it an unauthorized use of AI? I need to figure it out. And if it's an unauthorized use of AI, what has been sent up to it? How am I, doing all of these things? Big problems, right? Like anybody that has a security background would instantly start kind of shivering because of the very idea that they could have lost data to an AI, because we know that once it goes up there, no matter what that little thing at the bottom of the screen says, yeah, they are keeping it, or at least it's available somewhere that if someone knew what they were doing, they could probably regurgitate it back into something that maybe they weren't supposed to. I like this idea of using the network to kind of solve this problem initially. Is it the ultimate goal? I don't think so. I think that there has to be a better way to secure it, but kind of moving down those branching paths again, the network is never a bad place to start because we know that everything eventually does have to touch the network. China has regained the title of the world's fastest supercomputer with LineShine, which is a new Exascale system that delivers 2.2 exaflops of performance and surpasses the US-based El Capitan. What makes this achievement especially notable is that LineShine was built without advanced AI GPUs. Instead, it is relying on about 14 million CPU cores based on ARM technology. The system demonstrates that China has managed to adapt to U.S. export restrictions by focusing on alternative architectures and software innovation. While LineShine does excel at scientific simulations and traditional high-performance computing workloads, experts still note that it trails some competitors in that pesky commercial AI performance. Again, lack of GPUs. The development is likely to intensify competition in the global race for computing leadership. Al, is it kind of impressive that China managed to build a 2.2 exaflop computer out in a cave with nothing but scraps?
Well, they were interesting scraps. If you count a 304 core processor using a design license from ARM, that's the British firm ARM Holdings, so that's not subject to the US export controls in the way that NVIDIA's chips are subject to controls. So, yeah, 304 cores, 14 million cores in total, 304 per package. Yeah, that's pretty serious scale out in terms of compute, and that's normally how supercompute works. I mean, getting to 2.2 exaflops, that's 20% more compute power than El Capitan, although, as you say, it's restricted to the FP64, 64-bit floating point math. That's FP64 is the fundamental type of math that you use for real high-performance compute, as distinct from AI. That sort of high-performance compute, you need lots of precision in order to get a final answer. So questions around material science and questions around more determinative analysis of large amounts of data, financial data, those kinds of things. This is the kind of work that you often see done on high-performance compute. Absolutely. All commercial organizations will not be building exascale systems. There are apparently only 5 in the world, 3 in the US, this one in China and 1 in Germany. Exaflops is quite a lot of compute power, but it's also quite a lot of electrical power. Apparently, the LineShine uses 40% more power to produce 20% more calculations compared to El Capitan. So it is less efficient with the electricity that's being delivered to it. But here's one of the interesting things. China doesn't need to publish these stats out, get into the top 500. They can achieve their objectives of building large supercomputers without telling the world about it. And it will be pretty normal for the Chinese approach to be talk about it maybe internally, but not tell everybody about it. I think one of the things that's very significant in here is they have put a big mark on the top 500 supercomputer rankings by getting to the top of it and saying, we don't need your technology. We're building our own. albeit we're licensing the core designs from a British company. I think that's a really significant thing, is China is saying, we're building this without you. Your embargoes on us are not actually controlling our innovation and our ability to produce something pretty spectacular. Sure, it's not an AI system, but supercompute systems are not designed to run AI. AI is a very different kind of workload, and you design a system differently to build for that workload. You use the lower precision, non-deterministic outputs. But the significant thing is here is the China is telling you, we can build it as big as we want without your technology. Thank you very much, Mr. United States. Your restrictions on export, whether they stay or go, they don't matter to us. We can still build amazing, huge supercomputers and produce maybe better models of hopefully weather and material science, not anything more sinister. Speaking of things that might be viewed as sinister, Anthropic is facing renewed security after reports that the Mythos AI model that you can't get access to successfully breached a classified NSA systems. Now, it was during an authorized red team cybersecurity exercise, but the NSA don't really want the red team getting in. The incident has intensified concerns about how powerful frontier AI models could be used to discover and exploit vulnerabilities at unprecedented speed. At the same time, Anthropic is no longer on so much of the blacklist with the US government, as President Trump has suggested he no longer sees the company as a major security threat after he had a chat with the CEO. The controversy highlights the growing debate over AI safety, government oversight, and how to balance innovation with national security concerns as AI capabilities continue to advance, and we welcome, and I'm sure Tom also welcomes, our future AI overlords.
I'd like to congratulate Dario Amodei for building the Torment Nexus. Congratulations all around. Even though we told you not to do it, you went ahead and did it. I don't think Mythos is the aforementioned Torment Nexus. Look it up if you don't get the reference, kids. But I think what you're starting to understand is that these tools are going to exist. This is a problem that we have to solve, because if they didn't create Mythos to do this, somebody a lot less friendly would have. And when I say a lot less friendly, I'm not talking about Sam Altman kids. I'm talking about people who go by handles and people who will ransom your entire database back to you for peanuts because they say they can. We know that Mythos has these capabilities. And I've told a lot of people this recently. The thing that sets Mythos apart is not discovery. It's the exploit chain. Mythos will take an exploit and run with it. And yeah, look, I get that the NSA is probably one of the most secure places on the planet. When you're building it in the 90s and the early 2000s to, work against people who are like actual flesh and blood folks that are using tools to hack your systems. But we live in the 2020s now, and the 2020s are going to be dominated by automated systems that are doing this. They're finding these holes and then they're widening them to dive through. That is the difference with Mythos. That's why we keep telling you stories about how even basically everybody is freaking out about it. Every analyst session that we've been in the last month, people have been asking about Mythos and Glasswing. That's why everybody is freaked out that Anthropic is now not saying 0 days, but 0 hours. Or the fact that Fable got pulled as quickly as it did, because apparently, according to the reports, Andy Jassy was able to jailbreak something on a call. It's because the tool is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Like if you start waving a chainsaw around in the air and then it starts cutting things and you're like, oh no, I had no idea the chainsaw was going to cut things. You built the chainsaw to cut things. Yeah. Is it good at cutting paper? No, but it's also equally okay at cutting wood or flesh or metal. Like it is designed to cut things. So you built a tool that is built to hack things. It's built to find exploits and do something with them. And then you turned it on your own capabilities. And I'm sure that there were several people at the NSA who were like, this can't hurt us. Wait, what? Yeah, because it did exactly what it was designed to do. So rather than taking your lumps and saying, wow, this really is a good tool, we should use it more to find all of these problems. No. You got mad and you told everybody, oh, this is unprecedented. These tools cannot be given to normal people because look what they might do with them. Yeah, look what they might do with them. It's not like human history is filled with people who are, finding creative ways to use things and combinations that they shouldn't have to do things that they really shouldn't be doing. But, we'll just go ahead and restrict them because it's not like anybody's ever gotten access to Mythos before, right? Right? Hmm. All right. We had a story we wanted to take a closer look at. And no doubt, if you've been following the rundown or pretty much any financial news over the last couple of weeks, that you know that there has been a blockbuster IPO from our friends over at SpaceX. Well, they announced shortly thereafter a massive $60 billion all-stock deal acquisition of Anysphere. Well, who's that? You probably haven't heard of them, but you've heard of the tool that they make. It is the AI-first code editor, Cursor. This deal is scheduled to close in the third quarter of 2026. Hey, that's next month. And the deal marks a dramatic expansion into frontier AI development infrastructure for everyone's favorite friend, Elon Musk, and his ecosystem. By integrating Cursor into the newly absorbed XAI division, now a part of SpaceX, they are aiming to radically supercharge the coding capabilities of Grok models by typing into Cursor's highly successful developer platform, scaling operations behind the colossal Memphis-based training infrastructure. Al, I wanted to take a closer look at this because it kind of highlights a lot of the things that we've been leading towards. SpaceX went out and became a super valuable company, like what the fourth most valuable company on the planet, kind of overnight. Elon Musk is the world's first trillionaire, and the very first thing that he does, quite literally 4 days after the IPO, is spend $60 billion in stock to buy Cursor, which was something he was planning on doing before the IPO. It's just now he gets to buy it with monopoly money. So I want your breakdown of this. Is Cursor what Grok needs to succeed? Or is this basically saying, now that I have a lot of pretend money, I can go buy real companies with it?
Well, I think the latter. I think you make a huge amount of money at this IPO, and you can throw that money around. It feels less like you're spending real money. It feels like monopoly money. I think probably even to Elon Musk, who was used to spending monopoly money, it feels even more like. So $60 billion of stock for essentially for Cursor. That's a fork of the VS Code tools that basically is AI first. Uh, does this mean that SpaceX is going to be building better Starship because of Cursor and better code? No, that's probably nothing to do with it at all. What it probably is connected to is the fact that what was XAI, now is the XAI division of SpaceX, has massive contracts for access to the AI infrastructure they have built, and anything that makes it easier to consume that massive infrastructure makes it a more profitable place to be for SpaceX and therefore the shareholders of SpaceX, to whom our trillion-dollar man is supposedly responsible. I don't know. I personally would feel very few responsibilities if I had $1 trillion in my back pocket. I know it's a little inconceivable, but that's the world we live in. In terms of what Cursor is, it's very popular as a tool for integrating AI into your coding applications for real developers. This is for people who have a history in software development, rather than the vibe coder who just turns up at the weekend and says to an AI tool, build me something that will catch people's interest. This is very much a tool for building production applications at scale within large organizations. And it's one of the most favorite tools for using AI to help you with software development. So I think there's a bunch of interesting elements. Cursor itself maybe is not running quite as hot as it used to, because other tools are in the market that also assist you with AI coding. And one of the things we are seeing is a shift towards more declarative AI coding, where you write down in spec files exactly what you want the result to be, rather than more interactive of just I'm writing this code, help me command complete what I'm doing here. So yeah, it's part of a move towards more AI driven development, and I think Cursor having a new home, it may well be an interesting change for the actual team at Anysphere, and they may well find themselves struggling to sort of come up to speed. But integration into the various clients that SpaceX has for their infrastructure is probably going to be a priority. Um, Tom, are you a vibe coding guy or are you a structured programming? Do you like deterministic outputs with your right applications?
I gave up after COBOL, man. That's the peak. I can never get better than that. And yes, I do know COBOL. I took the last programming class in COBOL at the University of Oklahoma. Fun fact. One of the things I learned there, though, was never trust an AI coding tool. Yeah, all the way back in 1999, I learned that. Well, I learned something like that. What I really think this is about is Elon Musk needs to get people to use his AI for some reason. He built this giant data center in Memphis, and he's essentially having to sell parts of it to other people to even get it to be useful, right? Because nobody's really using Grok outside of people connected to X. And so now, if they create Cursor and attach it to Grok, now people are going to be using Cursor through a slightly different interface. It's like when another company buys the company that you like using their tools and they scrub the logo and they draw a new one, or it's the old logo, but now above it, it says, now owned by whoever. People are still going to use Cursor if they were using Cursor before. I think that some of the fall off from Cursor honestly came from the fact that Elon Musk wanted to buy it. And now people are like, oh God, he's going to ruin it. I think that vibe coding is still valuable, but I don't necessarily know that it's valuable for the reason that people think. When I was doing programming classes many, 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 many moons ago, and yes, I did take programming after COBOL. One of the things I always wanted us to come up with was pseudocode, right? And I hated pseudocode. It's like the first draft of a blog post. Like, why would I waste effort? But pseudocode lets you kind of game through things, right? And I see a lot of vibe coding as that. It is the first draft. It is, well, why don't you write me a program that does the following and does all of these functions? And it will come up with a really good idea. And in most cases, it will work, as long as you don't look too close at the security of it. But you're still going to have to run through iterations. You're still going to have to refine things. Did you remember to write file handler exceptions and actually make, colorful error messages, aka the infamous DOS 6.2 no help available, now go away help message? I think, though, that where this is ultimately going to lead for people, though, is they have to trust that Elon Musk is going to use Cursor in the way that they want Cursor to be used. And Elon Musk has to find a way to get people to stop using Claude code and go to Cursor. There's only one way that I can think of right now that are going to make people jump. And I don't think Elon wants to hear the answer. You're going to have to offer Cursor without token-based usage billing, because that's the only advantage right now that you could have over Claude Code. Claude Code is everybody's default. I don't think we've reached the point of it becoming a verb yet, like Google, but we're close because they are far and away better than just about anything else on the market. They are the clear leader. However, their likelihood of going to a token-based usage model is scaring people. We talked to people even last week when we were at Discover who are burning millions of tokens a month to do whatever it is that the vibe coding stuff in the background does. That's great as long as you're not paying for the tokens. But as soon as you have to pay for the tokens or packs of 1,000 tokens or whatever they are, now suddenly it becomes a problem because it's going to be a lot more expensive for you to do that. Hence, Elon Musk is going to have to figure out how to make that a more financially viable option. $60 billion of stock, aka SpaceX monopoly money, is enough to get the company in the door. But if the company's going to have to start making money, you can't offer a all you can eat golden corral style plan for people because they will take advantage of it. And if you start offering token based options, people aren't going to pick up your thing, because if I'm left with two options and I've already kind of molded my workflows to one, and the other one offers essentially the same thing in a slightly different flavor, but there's no financial advantage, I'm not going to move. Well, I think that that should just about do it for this topic. But guess what? It's not enough to do it for that topic, because we have a lot of things that we have coming up through Tech Field Day that we want you to know about, because we're very excited. The summer is a little bit slower. Turns out some people like to take vacation time. Also, something about being blisteringly hot outside. But don't worry, because we're going to be back in August. In fact, the first week of August, we're back. We're going to be at Black Hat, Tech Field Day Extra at Black Hat. I'm going to be back in Vegas because I think a month and a half is enough time for me to get it out of my system. We're going to be talking to some great security companies. We have a lot of people on deck. We can't wait to tell you about who they are. Make sure you tune in at techfieldday.com for more information on that. We have the webpage up. We're going to be listening to some great conversations and hopefully staying out of trouble at Black Hat. And then after that, Al, you're going to be back in the US for some awesome presentations as well.
I will indeed. I'll be escaping the southern hemisphere winter to come and join you in the slightly warmer climes of the Bay Area for Cloud Field Day number 26. All things cloud, and yeah, we should have a couple of great days there. We're just still lining up all of the companies and still got some spaces for additional delegates. Always reach out if you think you'd be a great delegate. A couple of great days in September for Cloud Field Day. And then, Tom, it's your turn again, returning at the beginning of October.
It is. We are already half full for Networking Field Day 41. Even though October is several months away, VMware by Broadcom, Hedgehog, Nokia, and NetBees have already agreed to be a part of the event, and we have more people waiting in the wings. I also have a great lineup of delegates that I can't wait to tell you about. I just have to lock down those pesky flights. But make sure that you were tuning in. It is currently scheduled for October 7th and 8th, but I bet you we're going to be there on October the 9th too, because there are so many presenters that we're going to have 3 full days. I'm calling it now. Come back to this presentation, this prediction later, and I bet you that I'll be right, hopefully. But we also want to thank each and every one of you for watching the Tech Field Day Rundown this week. Remember that you can catch new episodes every Wednesday on our YouTube channel, as well as in your favorite podcast application of choice. And the Rundown is also streamed on TechStrong TV as well. Don't forget that Al and I also hang out and do other TechStrong and Future Group programs. We have a lot of coverage from 65 Media, from HP Discover. So if you head over to 65media.com, you can check that out. We had a lot of fun recording those interviews. We're going to be back next Wednesday to talk about all the IT news in the week that was. Until then, for myself, Tom Hollingsworth, for Alastair Cooke, and everybody behind the scenes at Tech Field Day, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, go out there and catch yourself a ferry.